All right, so today we're diving into this YouTube video. And the title is Get Paid $300 Plus Per Day as a Teenager, or any age. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Just one YouTube video for a whole deep dive.
Whoa!
But trust me on this one. This is going to be a fascinating deep dive. We're going to break this video down together and see what's really going on here.
Yeah, you're right to be curious. You know, this video is kind of like a window into this whole huge trend that everyone's calling the creator economy, where pretty much anyone with a computer and internet access can potentially earn money by making content. It's a pretty amazing shift, really, this whole idea that, you know, anyone can be an entrepreneur.
Totally. And the guy in the video, Matt Parr, he really leans into that idea hard. He tells this whole rags to riches story about starting out when he was 14.
Yeah.
Then by 15, he was making more money than his friends. And then by 16, he was making more than his parents. And now at 23, he's making millions. It's a pretty wild ride.
It is. It's a classic hook for sure. That definitely grabs your attention, especially if you're like a teenager, right? But you know what's also a good reminder? To be at least a little skeptical. Not everyone who jumps into this creator economy ends up a millionaire. So let's dig into like how realistic this $300 a day thing actually is.
Yeah, so Matt's big thing is running what he calls faceless YouTube channels. And you might be wondering, what exactly does that even mean?
Yeah.
So basically, you don't have to be on camera. You can just create videos with voiceovers and visuals, which is perfect if you don't want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
Or you just hate being on camera.
Exactly. That's a big part of what makes this approach so accessible. You know, Matt even specifically mentions this channel called Brainos as an example. Think like explainer videos on all sorts of topics. Pretty straightforward stuff. And he says this model can work for tons of different interests. But there are a few that he really recommends people focus on.
He does, he suggests. Fitness and health, finance, relationships, travel, and technology. He calls them evergreen niches and says there's the best way to get those big earnings per view.
And there's a good reason he recommends those specific areas, you know. They tap into like fundamental human needs and desires. Think about it. People are always going to be looking for ways to improve their health, manage their money, build strong relationships, explore new places, and understand like the latest technology, because there's always demand for that type of information. Advertisers are more interested in those videos, which means you can potentially earn more. But here's the thing, you could pick like the most profitable niche in the world. But if you don't actually care about it, you're going to burn out so fast. So like, what are you truly interested in? That's something to think about.
Yeah, he's got a point there. Okay, so let's say you found a niche that really interests you.
Yeah.
How do you actually come up with video ideas? Well, Matt's got a whole system for that. And he says you can generate unlimited ideas with this system. So the first part of his system is to find popular videos in your niche, ones that have like over 100,000 views in the past 6 months. So basically, you're looking at what's already working and getting inspiration from that.
That's a really smart approach because you're essentially leveraging proven success. But it's not just about copying what's already out there. It's more like taking a recipe that's already been tried and tested and adding your own spin to it. And that's where the second part of his system comes in.
Yeah, he says you also need to stay ahead of the curve, which means using keyword research tools like vidIQ to figure out what topics are trending right now. And he gives this really specific example about airplane crosswind landings. Apparently that's a popular search term. So you could create a video like top 10 craziest airplane crosswind landings. People are searching for it. So you're giving them what they want.
It's like having your finger on the pulse of what people are interested in. It's a powerful approach. And it's not just limited to YouTube. Think about it. Could you use this approach in other areas of your life? Maybe for your work, your hobbies, or even just for Earthstem. Staying informed about what's going on in the world, it's all about understanding what people are looking for and finding creative ways to provide it.
I love that. Okay, so you figured out your niche, you've got your video ideas. Now you actually have to make the videos right.
Right.
So Matt gets into the nitty-gritty of content creation, and he breaks it down step by step. And one thing that really surprised me was how simple he makes it sound. You don't need any fancy equipment. You don't need professional skills. And you don't need a big budget to get started.
And this is where the whole idea of the creator economy being accessible to everyone really shines through. You know, Matt even mentions that. He used to record his voiceovers on a cracked iPhone. He started as a broke teenager, just like a lot of his audience. So it's refreshing to see him acknowledge that. You don't need to spend a ton of money to get started. You can literally start with what you have.
Yeah, and he does recommend using AI tools like ChatGPT for writing scripts.
Yeah.
And 11 Labs for voiceovers. which is interesting because it shows how technology is making it even easier to create high-quality content. You don't even need to be a tech expert to use these tools.
It's fascinating how technology is constantly lowering that barrier to entry. It's like having a team of virtual assistants helping you create your content. But even with all these tools available, Matt stresses that the most important thing is providing value, whether it's educational or entertaining. That's what really resonates with viewers.
Speaking of providing value, he gives some really specific tips for making sure that your content is top-notch. He says you should watch the top 3 videos on your chosen topic.
And pay close attention to the comments, especially the timestamps that people mention. It's like getting direct feedback from your audience before you even create your video.
That's brilliant. It's like having a focus group telling you exactly what they want to see. And he's not saying you should just copy those videos. It's about identifying the most engaging moments and then finding ways to make them even better in your own video. All right, it's about taking inspiration and then creating something unique and valuable.
Yeah.
So you've got your script, you've got your voiceover. What about the visuals? Well, Matt says you can use clips from YouTube under fair use, which basically means you can use them without getting in trouble as long as you follow certain rules. He also recommends stock footage from sites like Pixabay and Pexels. And of course, he mentions his sponsor Storyblocks, which is understandable. But again, it reinforces this idea that you don't need a huge budget to get started. There are so many resources available, both free and paid, that can help you create professional-looking videos. And when it comes to editing, he actually says that simple can be super effective, especially when you're first starting out. He recommends using free or affordable software like OpenShot, CapCut, or even iMovie. You don't need to be a professional video editor to make engaging content.
It's not about the flashy edits or like special effects. It's about telling a story and keeping your audience engaged. The editing should enhance your video, not distract from it.
Then he talks about thumbnails, which are super important because they're the first thing people see. He recommends a website called snap.ir for creating thumbnails. And he says to make them big, use minimal text and tailor them to your niche based on what other successful creators are doing.
Again, it's all about studying what works and adapting it to your own content. That's a principle that applies across the board, from your video ideas to your thumbnails to your editing style. It's about understanding your audience and what appeals to them.
Okay, so you've created your video. Now it's time to upload it to YouTube. But you can't just upload it and hope for the best. You need to optimize it.
Right.
And Matt breaks down that optimization process step by step. He talks about using keywords in your description, your title, and your tags. He also recommends using a tool called vidIQ to help you find the best keywords and track your video's performance. But he also emphasizes one crucial element: consistency. You can't just upload a few videos and expect to become a YouTube star.
Right. This is where it becomes clear that this is about more than just making a quick buck. It's about building a brand, creating a community, and establishing yourself as an authority in your niche.
Exactly. He recommends uploading at least 30 to 60 videos, ideally 3 per week when you're starting out. That might sound like a lot, but he says it's the best way to give your channel a real shot at success.
It's a real test of commitment, isn't it? Are you in it for the long haul?
For sure.
He also talks about how YouTube's algorithm works, how it initially tests your videos with a small audience and then gives them more exposure based on things like how long people watch, how many people click on them, and how much of the video people actually watch, all those metrics.
So you're not just competing with other creators, you're also working with YouTube's algorithm to get your content seen by more people. So we've covered a lot of ground. In this first part of our deep dive, we talked about the allure of the creator economy, Matt's intriguing faceless YouTube channel method, and his tips for everything, from finding a niche to creating content to optimizing your videos. But the big question remains, can you really make $300 a day doing this?
That's the big question, and that's what we'll be exploring. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll unpack Matt's breakdown of the YouTube Partner Program, how much money you can actually make, and what it really takes to be successful in this competitive landscape.
Okay, so while you're waiting for that next part to drop, think about what we've discussed so far. What stands out to you? What are your initial thoughts on Matt's method? Would you consider trying something like this yourself? Keep those questions in mind as we continue our exploration.
Sounds good. You know, it's interesting how this whole thing, well, it's like geared towards teenagers. It could actually be relevant to a much wider audience.
Right. Like who wouldn't want to earn $300 a day doing something they enjoy? But getting back to Matt's approach for a second, he breaks down content creation into all these manageable steps that don't seem so overwhelming once you actually see how he does it.
Yeah, one thing that really stuck with me was his focus on providing value. And not just educational value. He actually says entertainment value is a real thing, which is so true. I think we can get so caught up in teaching people things sometimes that we forget that entertainment is valuable too.
Totally. He gives this example of making a top 10 style video where you watch the top 3 videos on a topic, see which parts viewers like best, and then you make a video with all those highlights.
Like a curated highlight reel almost. You're paying attention to viewer comments and timestamps,
Right.
which is like getting direct feedback from your audience before you even start filming.
And he makes it clear that you're not just copying, though. You're taking inspiration and then improving on what's already out there. So you're making something even better and more valuable for the viewer.
Yeah, it's like remixing a song. You're taking existing elements and combining them in a new and creative way. That's a really interesting concept. And not just for YouTube. Think about how that could apply to other creative projects or even to problem solving in general.
That's a cool way to think about it. He also mentions using AI tools to like help improve your content. Things like ChatGPT for writing and 11 Labs for voiceovers. It's amazing how easy it is to use these tools these days.
It really is. And remember, Matt started out recording his voiceovers on a cracked iPhone, so you don't need to be a tech expert or have a bunch of expensive equipment. To use these tools, it's all about the quality of the content and connecting with your audience.
So true. And he's really big on using high-quality stock footage for visuals and being careful about fair use. He mentions Pixabay, Pexels, and of course, it sponsors Storyblocks.
Right.
But again, the idea is to make this as accessible as possible. All these resources mean that anyone can make professional-looking videos without spending a fortune. He talks about editing software too, like OpenShot, CapCut, and iMovie, and really emphasizes that simplicity can be super effective, especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah. It's not about being like a master editor or using the most expensive software. It's about telling a compelling story in a clear and engaging way.
Then there are his tips about thumbnails, those little preview images that are so important because they're the first thing viewers see. He suggests a website called snap.ir for making thumbnails, and he says, keep the text to a minimum, make them large, and tailor them to what's already working in your niche.
He really emphasizes the importance of data and analytics. Throughout the whole video, it's not enough to just create content. You also have to understand how people are engaging with it.
Which brings us to the big question. How do you actually make money from this?
Right. So Matt goes into the details of the YouTube Partner Program and explains that to reach that $300 per day goal, you need to hit a certain number of views and maintain a certain CPM. CPM stands for cost per mil, which basically means how much advertisers pay for every 1,000 views your videos get.
Got it.
So he says, to hit $300 a day, you need 900,000 views per month at a $10 CPM. But he's also realistic and says not everyone will be able to reach those numbers.
Right.
And that's an important point. You know, success on YouTube takes work, dedication, and yes, a bit of luck. It's not a guaranteed path to riches.
But even if you don't make $300 a day, he says the skills you learn along the way are super valuable.
Yeah, this is where the conversation becomes about more than just YouTube. He talks about things like freelancing, working for marketing agencies, and all sorts of other opportunities in the creator economy. These are all areas where the skills you learn making YouTube videos could be valuable.
So it's not just about YouTube. It's about developing skills that can be applied to a bunch of different fields.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. It's about being adaptable and understanding the core principles of content creation, audience engagement, and how to use online platforms effectively.
Okay, so we've talked about Matt's backstory, the whole Faceless YouTube channel concept, and his process for creating and optimizing content.
Right.
But he keeps coming back to this idea of consistency being key.
And that's where the rubber meets the road. It's easy to get excited about making money online, but it's consistent effort that really separates the successful creators from everyone else.
He even gives a specific number. Upload at least 30 to 60 videos.
Yeah.
Ideally 3 a week when you're starting out. It's a pretty serious commitment.
It is. And it shows that you're not just treating this like a hobby, you're approaching it like a business.
He talks about how YouTube's algorithm works, how it initially tests your videos with a small audience, and then gives them more exposure based on things like how long people watch, how many people click on them, and how much of the video people actually watch. So there's all these different factors.
Right.
And then he shares his own personal story about how YouTube took him from being a broke high school student to someone who can, like, travel the world.
Yeah, it's an inspiring story. But we also have to remember that everyone's journey is different. You know what worked for Matt might not work for everyone else.
He acknowledges that, too. He says success isn't guaranteed, but encourages viewers to go for it and push through those early challenges.
It's about having a growth mindset and being open to learning and adapting as you go.
Okay, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's bring it back to you. What are your thoughts on this so far? Is this something you could actually see yourself doing?
It's an interesting question.
Maybe Matt's story has sparked some ideas for how you could use online platforms in a different way. Whatever your takeaway is. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to consider.
I agree. You know, even if becoming a YouTuber isn't your ultimate goal, the core ideas here are surprisingly relevant to a lot of different things. Like finding your reach, making content that people find valuable, understanding your audience, using technology effectively, and being consistent. These are all valuable skills regardless of what you're doing.
That's so true. I'm already thinking about how I can use some of these tips to improve my own work. Like that idea of studying the top performers in your field and looking for those moments where people are really engaged. That's brilliant.
Yeah. It reminds us that we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes the best ideas are already out there, just waiting for someone to adapt and improve them. And with the right tools and a little creativity, we can all make something really unique and valuable.
One of the biggest takeaways for me is that it's okay to start small. You know Matt's story about recording his first voiceovers on a cracked iPhone. That's a great example. You don't need fancy equipment or a ton of resources to get started. What matters is taking that first step.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the fundamentals, making great content, understanding your audience, and being consistent. Those are the things that really matter, whether you're on YouTube, writing a blog, starting a business, or even just trying to improve your skills in a specific area.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the possibilities of the creator economy. It's not just about becoming a YouTube celebrity. It's about taking control of your own future and building something that you're passionate about.
It's about using technology to connect with others, share your ideas, and maybe even make a real impact on the world.
So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. That story's inspiring. But success is a journey, not a destination. It's about setting goals, working hard, learning from your mistakes, and never giving up on your dreams. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be featuring your story right here on The Deep Dive.
That's what we like to hear.